Hi everyone, my name is Mark and today I'll be presenting my project for design resolution. I'll be covering my initial concept, element study, and a quick overview of the project scheme. So the concept of my project is to explore how I can recreate the existing roofscapes found in Digbeth and transform it into a creative community hub located in Faisley Street, which focuses on reducing, reuse, recycling, and remaking, ultimately to incentivize a circular economy. As you might already know, Digbeth has played a vital role in advancing the manufacturing industry in Birmingham and is known for becoming the first centre of industry back in the 18th century. This being said, knowing that the context of many of the buildings in Digbeth were heavily industrialized, I became quite I became quite fascinated in the forms of these buildings, more specifically the roof structure. So my initial mapping studies consisted of identifying the orientation and most common roof types within our two sites. This then led on to creating sketch models of these roof structures. Um, with further exploration and research, I noticed a relationship between the type of industry and the type of roof structure. Additionally, that different roof structures also have different properties in terms of size, shape, orientation, and daylighting. This then became the foundation of my design development, whereby by identifying the characteristics of a roof form and structure, this will then give me an informed decision on what the function of that space is. So represented in these diagrams above here, I took the approach of rather than designing from bottom up, I decided to design from roof form first. Um, so first, kind of analyzing the advantages of the roof structure, and then determine the type of roof structure. So either a frame structure or a load bearing, for example, and then from there allocate the most suitable space for that function. So the diagrams here on the left, these help to illustrate the concept. So for example, the dual pitch roof is typically used for larger span spaces, and because of the design of the truss, no additional columns are needed to support it. So in Digbeth, most of the industries would be large hangars, but for my project, it would potentially become the lecture space or the cafe. So I did this for all of the roof types before I actually started to draft and design. So one of the main theories I used and that influenced my design was Colin Rowe's collage city. In this theory, Colin creates a city using fragments of the past, present, and future of existing urban fabrics, which results in a very unique collage of different areas. Because the existing roofscape of Digbeth holds a very historical significance in Birmingham's industry, by implementing Colin's theory, I'm able to preserve the traditional roofscape by conforming to its typology. So here shows the proposed roof and landscape plan of my building. When designing, I took inspiration from the neighboring industrial buildings and decided rather than designing a singular building in the middle of the site, I wanted to design the building as if it was a landscape, which spreads across the whole site of Faisley Street. By doing so, it would express the different roof types present in my building more effectively. So moving on to the element study. Um, from the mapping studies earlier in the project and the roof type analysis, the properties of the sawtooth roof caught my attention. Therefore, for my element study, I took a tectonic approach and decided to explore how daylight enters the sawtooth workshop and experiment how different sawtooth forms would affect the arrangement of light. So the plan of action I decided to take was to create four 1 to 20 models of the sawtooth roof, all having different properties of size of bay, angle of tooth, size of glazing, and height of tooth. I then tested these models and photographed them during 3 times of the day, morning, afternoon, and evening, and recorded the difference in daylight arrangement in each variation. So for each variation, I included feedback from the testing, pointing out the pros and cons of each structure. The test was quite interesting as it allowed me to see potential zoning areas For instance, the areas that don't receive that much light could be used for storage or machinery. My study then goes on to explore the more structural and environmental side of the sawtooth workshop. So here shows the exploded axonometric of the workshop space. What I wanted to create in this space was a feeling of being in a traditional industrial building seen around Digbeth. So many of these buildings have exposed roof structures which cast very interesting shadows below. So I wanted to replicate that atmosphere in the workshop. You can also see in the axle that the bays are divided by steel columns which support the exposed roof trusses. For my project, I would consider the workshop the key space of my scheme. Therefore, I also analyze the environmental aspect of it. In this drawing, you can see the atmosphere of the light from the north facing windows, and also pointed out the heating and ventilation systems within the building. So moving on to the scheme of my building, I have tailored the design resolution brief and the 1000 trades brief to formulate sculpture studios. The program of my building is divided into 3 parts. The first is to educate. So Sculpture Studios is open to all types of user groups, especially those who don't know much about sustainability and the 3 Rs. Sculpture Studios gives people the opportunity to attend social lectures and classes which informs them about the benefits of upcycling and how to reduce waste. By providing this knowledge, it will make more people wary about linear economies. So secondly, Sculpture Studios also has workshop facilities where people can come in and apply what they've learned in the talks and seminars to create all sorts of things from furniture to sculptures, all out of recycled materials provided by either the public or the local industries. Finally, the Sculpture Studios gives the opportunity for people to exhibit their upcycled items in either the sculpture courtyard or the gallery. By doing so, it would automatically attract more people to learn about becoming a circular economy. So here just shows a couple of visuals. So the top one here is a visual of the sculpture park. You can see the sculptures kind of displayed out onto the courtyard. And I kind of positioned the courtyard next to the workshop, so it has easy accessibility to move sculptures in and out of the spaces. The image below is a visual of the workshop, so you can just see some of the activity that's going on inside there. You can see the exposed structure, and again just has direct access to the outside courtyard. And finally, the drawings below show the proposed elevations both of Paisley Street and the workshop views. Another additional space I added to the brief was to include a viewing tower, which allowed people to go up and be at a higher elevation compared to the surrounding buildings, and give them the opportunity to see the existing roofscape of Digbeth, a view which cannot be experienced from below. And yeah, so that is the overview of my project. Thank you very much for listening.